Welcome to Scrunchy Time. I'm Nicole Hegstead, your fertility advocate. After 6 years of infertility and 3 miscarriages, I decided that I needed to become the advocate for my own body. If you're exhausted from struggling to get pregnant and want to know more about how I can help, check out my website at www.nicolehegstead.com.
And I'm Bridget May, your children's health expert. My son was born with a heart condition that led to 3 open heart surgeries, cath labs, a tracheostomy, and a ventilator. After being fed up with mixed opinions, I became my children's own advocate. If your child's health is lacking, then check out my website at www.bridgetmay.com to find out more how I can help. Put your hair up and pay attention while we discuss today's hottest topics concerning female hormones and healthy kiddos.
We aren't silky.
We aren't crunchy. We're scrunchy.
Welcome back to Scrunchy Time. This is our 6th episode, and today we're going to be talking about the home and how it is a safe place for a whole bunch of different issues. So I'm going to let Bridget take it away with her list.
My list is longer than her list. Yeah, so it can be a safe place for a myriad of reasons. So the first one I want to bring up, immediately pops to my mind, is that we can control it. It's the one place you have complete and total control over what kind of chemicals you're bringing in, the cleaning products, the air fresheners, the body wash, the deodorant, the makeup, everything that you're putting in your air directly on your skin. All of those things are, cloth diapers, we've talked about that, nursing pads, feminine products even, we've talked about all that. This is where it happens. You can do whatever you want right here at home. But, the minute you walk out of that door, there are so many variables, influences. If you have 3 toddlers under 3, you have no idea what the hell is going to happen, and it gets crazy, and you just have to give and take. I personally don't want to take cloth diapers on a plane. There's nothing I can do about that. That is not going to change. So there's just so much that we can control and keep it a safe place at home, no matter what we know we're being exposed to. We have the perfect environment to continue healing, to be recovering, all those kinds of things at home. I know some people who go so far as to research their furniture and their clothing and everything, to where it's just their paint, what their house is built with, and all of that, so that it is a completely as toxic free. I mean, things are toxic. Everything is toxic to us to some extent, right? But it is as toxic free as it humanly possibly can be. And I think that is amazing. I haven't been able to go that far down this road yet, but scratching the surface, back to the beginning, like I was saying, chemicals and things like that. I think it's so important that we have that mindset of, and we don't get overwhelmed of oh, but I can't do, even if you did cloth diapers at home, and then when they went to daycare, sure, they did disposables, but making that switch at home, that temporary time, it makes a huge difference. I could go down the road of why cloth diapers are better for that amount of time, but I won't. But, every little thing makes a difference. And kids are going to know that and see that as well. They're going to feel better at home. They're going to know that things are different, that, that their body is just so much more happier, and they're able to detox. And this is the place where, I can be at my best because I'm home. And I mean, obviously, who doesn't want their kids to feel that way at home? So, I just think it's super important to talk about this. And the other thing with that too is the kids knowing what's going on at home, they have that stability, and we can create routines for them too. In toddlers and stuff too, I feel like I've been able to give my toddler more responsibilities, and he can, tackle things so much faster in a safe environment at home. If he spills something, I don't have to worry about him going and getting under the cupboard and grabbing the cleaning products and a rag and cleaning it up, because that's totally fine. He may waste some, sure, but he's not going to be dumping bleach on the floor for his 9-month-old sister to crawl and put in her mouth, for a very long time, I had to worry about his trach site. I don't have to worry about all of that containing these harsh chemicals. Like, he is totally capable of grabbing this, of doing that, because everything is set up around them and creating that safe place for them to be able to handle it all. It's just really cool. Like, he's able to do so much. It's awesome. And his sisters are following in his footsteps, which is really cool to see. And they all know their routines of how the house is supposed to go, what we're supposed to do, where things go. Like, all of that is just really, really cool. So those are my biggest like points and reasons. Of course, like I said, I could go into each one of them with so much more depth, but scratching the surface.
Well, and what stood out to me in everything you're sharing there too is that like you can teach him to clean up his own mess, because he isn't using toxic chemicals. Like, you would never tell a 3-year-old, hey, there's the bleach kid, like you would never ever do that. And so you can teach him, well, this is how you clean it up, so that way he does just naturally start to clean it up. So that's really cool too, that he's able to take on more responsibility just naturally.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So yeah. I had a really good example of stuff you were talking about too. My hormones mentor, had shared that someone had posted in our Facebook group that did you know that there's BPAs in toilet paper? And she responded that yes, there is. And she actually had a client who switched to toilet paper that does not have BPAs, and got pregnant a month later. That was the only switch that she had made. And wow. I was thinking about that, because we have made that switch too, to a safer toilet paper method. But then you go out, you go to a mall, and like, obviously you're not going to carry your toilet paper with you, right? Like, that's just insane. And so, like, I'm sure that this woman didn't as well. And I'm sure that everywhere she went, she was using regular amounts, but just at home, changing her toilet paper was enough to help her to get pregnant. And that blows me away, that like, we can make these changes in our homes, and it's enough to carry over into the regular lifestyle too.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a great point too. I think you were going to bring up food for that instance too. I thought of a great example for that too, is like, so many times you go out and you stress and you worry, like, oh my gosh, we can't go eat out. Everything is, whatever. And it's okay. That one time is okay. You might feel like crap the next day, but like, it's okay. Your body knows to detox it. And I even notice it knows to detox it faster, because you're doing so well at home. And it's okay. I honestly get really like annoyed when you have those certain friends who are like, well, we can't go out because, and it's like, that's not the point. Like, it's not this point to make this huge statement and whatever, unless you have like obviously a serious medical issue, but it's to just keep doing your best. And if you can do it as best as possible at home, you can go out and do these other things.
Absolutely.
And and same with the toilet paper. If you change it at home, you can go to the movie theater and use the toilet paper at the movie theater. And it's not going to make that difference, and your body's going to recognize it, because it knows, and like, changing that. And then, when you do have to use it, your body's going to say, wait, this is bad. And it's going to detox whatever it needs to that much quicker, because it's not built up over such a large amount of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I so agree. Yeah. So yeah, I was going to bring up food. I love that everything in my house is gluten-free. Every single thing in my house is gluten. I think I have a thing of cookies on the top of the fridge that actually smell horrible. My husband brought them home. And I need to throw them away. And he was telling me they actually don't taste all that good. And I'm like, then why are you eating them? Like, what is wrong with you? Just throw them away. But other than that, everything, I label read everything at the grocery store. So that way, everything that comes into my house, when I'm feeling particularly snacky, I can go grab whatever I want and eat it. And I don't have to feel like, oh, well, that's bad. Oh, well, that's bad. Well, I want something that's healthy. Okay, well, I want to snack bad enough that I'm going to break whatever that is, and do whatever I want. And no, I have like everything in my house is okay for me to eat. And I love that. So I'm always very careful when I'm at the grocery store to make sure that Everything that I'm purchasing and getting for our house is good and has good ingredients in it. There are occasions where I'll purchase something that is not so good, but I only get enough to last one meal. So if we're gonna have like a treat meal that night, it's eaten up, it's gone, it's done, and then that's what that is. But then after that, it's not that big of a deal. The other thing is, the more you eat better, the better it tastes. And so then you stop viewing, and the repercussions of eating poorly get worse. And so it's kind of like the trade-off isn't as good, because it's like, this isn't fun anymore. And you stop enjoying it. Yeah. And then I also wanted to bring up intellectual freedom. And I was raised in a house, and my husband and I have kind of fostered this in our home too. And I love this, but you're allowed to ask any questions in your home. And I loved that growing up. We were allowed to ask, even if it was politically incorrect, if it was, a racist question or a bigoted question, like, kids have questions about things. And the only way that they learn is by asking questions and us honestly answering them. And that can be whatever your opinion is in your home. But we need to have intellectual freedom in our homes where our children are allowed to ask these questions. And we can say, no, that's considered racism. That is wrong. Or that is considered wrong out in the world. But I personally believe X, Y, or Z, or yes, you can ask that question. This is the answer, but that is wrong or immoral for you to think that thought or ask these questions or things like that. But like, they're always allowed to ask, because children aren't going to learn any other way. And we don't want our children to fit into a mold that is just told, we don't talk about that. We don't ever talk about that. How dare you ever bring that up? And granted, as adults, there are things that we don't go into society and discuss. And that's neither here nor there as to whether that's right or not. But we don't want our children to end up just stuck in, well, I can't ever bring that up. I don't really know why. We just don't talk about that in America, and there aren't, like, as free as what we are, there are major topics that we do not discuss and are not allowed to be brought up. And it's kind of getting away from the issue of health, but there is a healthiness in intellectual freedom that we need to allow to be safe in our own homes. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're one of those homes, good job and kudos to you. And if you're not one of those homes, consider it, because there is nothing wrong with asking questions. The day that questions are wrong is the day we've lost all freedom, because there's no point in calling ourselves free if we can't say, what if, or, but why is that wrong? Why is it wrong to do X, Y, or Z? There's nothing wrong with those questions. So anyway, just kind of wanted to discuss that as well.
No, it's so true though. But in bringing that back to the safe home though, is like, if kids know they can ask that when you get home, it takes away a lot of that social stress as well, of like, oh my gosh, what is my kid gonna say? Yeah. That would help with that.
So yeah, I actually kind of have a story about that. When I was a kid, I saw something out in public. I can't even remember what it was now. And even if I could, I don't think I could repeat it here, because I think it was sexual in nature. But I remember getting in the car with my dad and saying, I have a question for you. And I didn't think it was appropriate to ask this in the grocery store, but I saw it was on a woman's shirt or a bumper sticker or something like that. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, first of all, thank you for not asking that in the grocery store. But like, our kids learn that yes, when we get in the car, when we get home, that's the appropriate place to ask questions. And, you don't point, what's wrong with his face? Like you ask when you get in the car, Dad, there was a guy in there that, had something on his face. I remember seeing people with birthmarks and having questions about that as a kid, or deformities. And if you teach your kids that you can ask these questions when we get home, they're not going to point as much out in public and be like, what is wrong with that person? And you explain it's a deformity or a birthmark, and there's nothing wrong with that person, and it fosters this education of, instead of, don't ask that, put your hand down, don't ever bring that up again, shame on you, of like this. And isn't that the world that we're trying to create anyway? where our kids are respectful of someone with a birthmark on their face or a deformity, instead of in fear, like, oh, I can't talk to that person because we can't ever ask questions about that. Like,
Right.
no, we want a kid that's like, that's what that is. That's what I was taught, because my parents were able to explain it to me all in detail. And I guess, I mean, if you have a kid that did that, you could say, put your hand down, we don't point. And then when you get in the car, explain it to them. And that's how you foster and teach them the car, the house. Those are safe places to ask these questions, but not in the middle of the grocery store, And so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, definitely like fostering their knowledge for sure at home in a safe place where you aren't as embarrassed, and allowing them to learn, like I feel like that's a lot. We've quit teaching as well, in a lot of these topics and subjects, all around everything, we've just assumed that, they're going to figure it out, or, whatever. And so if we don't figure out what they don't know, and every kid notices something different, it's one of those things too, where, you're at home and you can control it. And no matter how close you are to your child out there, while you're going to Walmart, whatever, they're going to see things and pick up things you don't even know what's going on because you're too busy going for the almond milk, like get the almond milk, get home, get dinner, they're sitting there just soaking it all in. And you're not going to have every, opportunity, or you're not going to know every opportunity that they're sitting there wondering and learning about how things work. So that's like a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think you touched on this a little bit too, but emotional health, like that stability in the house with those routines, with that structure, it just creates an emotionally stable place. I always laugh at myself every time I go into my massage therapy office. It smells so good and it's so quiet, and they always have this peaceful music playing, and the blinds are all pulled and it's dark and it's so peaceful. And I'm just like, every time I go in there, I think, this is what I need to make my home like. This is what I need to make my home like. And I leave and I come back and I'm like, I'm still so far away from that. And every time I'm like, this is what I'm trying to make my home be like. But like, if our homes were places of peace and comfort and quiet and calm, then imagine how peaceful our families would be, and there wouldn't be as much bickering and yelling and screaming, and I love the concept that certain rooms in the house are designated for certain things. Like, we don't talk about finances in our bedrooms, we talk about finances in the office, in the den where we take care of it, and that way that all is left in that room, and then the rest of the house is for peace and calm. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard studies like that. You don't do things in bed because that's your place for sleeping, and it tells your subconscious like, oh, here I am, I'm sleeping, and you have better rest and things like that. So that's awesome. I've never thought about that, like doing things in particular rooms in the house, but it makes sense. You walk into the kitchen, you open the fridge door.
Right.
Because you're taught this is where we eat.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really, really good. And it's good for us. Like, and again, like we can't control everything. Life is chaos, it is going to happen. And, add all that chaos, it to, if you're homeschooling or multiple schedules in the home, to, all these different things, plus you're adding in, chemicals that are literally messing with the hardwire in your brain, to your breathing. If your body's not breathing well, do you think you're going to be thinking clearly?
No.
Like, this is where we should be doing our utmost to be at our best, because we can be.
Yep. Yes.
And yeah, like you were saying, like the fighting and bickering, like that happens with, children as well as married couples. And who wants to add to more of that?
Right.
But kids, especially when they don't understand, that, I can walk into somebody else's home and realize, oh my gosh, I am smelling a candle, and I can feel my breathing is becoming labored, and like I can recognize that and, process it properly in order to know how to handle it. But a child isn't going to do that. They're just going to get frustrated and not know what's going on. They don't feel well. They get, cranky and grouchy, and there you go. And so who wants to add that into your home life?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And the cleaner that your living space becomes, the more you recognize that out in public too. My husband and I ate out last night, and I could smell the dial soap that our waiter had used.
Yeah.
It was that bad. And I was just like, oh man, I think I was raised using that very, very toxic soap, horrible soap. And yeah, like just every time you walked by, I was just like,
perfumes get me anymore. I used to, Bath and Body Works up the wazoo, lotion, perfume, blah, 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 like all of the things. And I never thought twice about it, and now somebody has the faintest scent, like their shower gel. Like I should not be able to smell your shower gel on you.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, like I can just feel myself just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's crazy, but your body can recognize it.
Last night, actually, so as soon as I was like, man, I can smell his soap. And then like this fruit fly came and it was like flying around, and David was like swatting at it. And I was like, I said, it always kind of makes me a little nervous because you smell somebody walk by with their dial soap. And then like, we're sitting here. Do you think maybe we stink or something? Because the flies are all over here, And he brought up a great point. He was like, I think that those chemicals scare the insects, it scares stuff away because if they know that it's chemicals, they can smell it even better than we can. And they recognize that, well, this is a healthy smelling person. So, but yeah, I always chuckle at that. Like, oh, this can't be good.
It's so true. And I've never had that. Like I've never had anybody say you smell or
shower
today.
No.
Look at my hair. I haven't truly washed it in over a year. Can you tell?
Nope. Like I haven't used shampoo in at least 6 months now. So I only used it because we went in a chlorine pool.
It's crazy. It's crazy how your body it knows what to do. Our world is so commercialized with you have to have this and you have to do this and you have to be sterile and this is better and you have to use this shampoo to make your hair shiny, and our bodies naturally know how to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I mean,
podcast for another day, but
like bacterial germs are mutating because of the soap we're using. Like the soap we're using is so not like, it's just antibacterial and we shouldn't be using it, and it's literally causing the bacteria to mutate. Like they can't.
I know, it makes no sense whatsoever. So now we're gonna have to come up with something else. I mean, that goes right back to antibiotics and everything else. Like we do all these things, but in the end, it only makes things worse. When if you would have just ate the garlic, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have caused this super bug. And I mean, that's a very generic version of what I'm going for. But you understand what I'm trying to say. Like it's nature takes care of itself. God has designed it that way. We have lived without all these modern cleanlinesses for how many years? This is so new. And we take it, we've been completely sold that this is a have to, and we're told we're healthier because of it, but yet we're not. We literally aren't.
So extreme. Like we've gone from, I get like indoor plumbing, amazing, has stopped thousands and thousands of diseases, saved probably millions of lives, right? Indoor plumbing. Washing your hands after you use the restroom, again, is saving millions of lives. But we have this concept, also washing your hands before you prepare a meal.
Yep.
Also really good. But we had this concept. I actually knew this guy that said, you wash your hands every time you think about it. Every time you think about it, you go to the bathroom and wash your hands. And it's like, there's like this concept after a while that we're being cleaner when we aren't. We're, again, building up that bacteria. We're breaking down our own defenses. We're putting chemicals into our bodies. He actually died of a heart attack at a very young age, very, very young age, which is really sad and horrible. But it makes you wonder, like, I don't know what his lifestyle was other than that. So I can't really, speculate. But obviously there was something unhealthy going on there, for him to die at such a young age. He was also in sales, so that can affect your heart. Obviously.
A little stressful.
It's a little stressful.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's why we need to always just do the best we can and keep moving forward. And, that was, the chemicals in the home were the first thing for me because of, for instance, trach and ventilator. You know, when they tell you not to give this stuff to a kid with a trach and a ventilator, should you be doing it yourself? You know, like it's just
right.
Let's think about this. You know, like it really makes no sense what we're doing.
That was my first thing too, and it was because it was easy.
Mhm.
It doesn't
It's
matter
very easy.
what I clean the toilet with. The toilet just has to be cleaned. But
Mhm.
gluten tastes really good. So like there's this trade-off with the food thing that makes it really hard. But chemicals are easy. As long as the toilet's getting clean, that's all that matters. And so finding a good chemical to clean stuff with is always really important. So
and it's a balance and it's a process, you know. The gluten is hard for everyone, and you know, it's really hard sometimes if you're going out with a girlfriend to a coffee shop. You don't know what's in the coffee, you don't know what's in the lemon bar. It's okay, you know, unless obviously you have a very, very bad gluten reaction. You know, that's okay as long as you're good at home. And like Nicole said earlier, you're going to end up having such adverse reactions to it that you're probably not going to want it anyway, and it won't be a loss, you know. But give yourself grace getting to that point. You know, for some people that could be 6 months. For others it could take 4 or 5 years before you to that point where you're just like, I am not eating that. You know.
Yeah.
And that's just you and your journey. We can't all, you know, I could go on another rant of diets and fad diets, and that's why they don't work. It's because we just cut us off, and we don't realize what's going on. We don't I feel like we have to give our brain that time to transition to truly understand. We can't just say gluten's bad. We have to, I know I have had to again and again. Oh, I can eat that. No, that was bad.
Yeah.
Oh, I can eat that. I can't tell you how many times I've had to learn my lesson.
Yes.
It's getting better. But, you know, to literally just say no, thank you it's been a journey. It has been
absolutely.
Because
I still struggle with the gluten thing. My body has naturally cut me off from coffee, like naturally. I started slowing down, and then I noticed that when I did have it, I had really bad reactions to it, and I freaking love coffee. Like my body and I aren't speaking right now because of this issue, but my body is like, no, you don't want that. Even when I think about having a cup of coffee now, it's like, oh, that's how my body responds. And I'm just realizing, like, I don't know when I'll be able to have, or if I'll be able to have coffee again. And that's why I'm very angry with my body right now, because it needs to pull itself together and enjoy this cup of coffee. But it's done it all by itself. It has slowly, and it's getting to the point where, I don't know. But with, you know, gluten, it's been a longer journey of, I think we said in a previous episode, sitting on the toilet and going, oh man, I should not have had that banana nut bread at Starbucks, even though it tasted amazing. Like, not good. So yeah, it definitely is one of those things where it takes time, and it's okay that it's taking time.
Yeah. And I think we had talked about that earlier too. You do notice that you can start to like recognize, it's kind of creepy, but like you do recognize, like, while you're eating this is such processed food. This is not grandma's homemade banana nut bread. You know, and I can get halfway through a brownie and I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, why am I eating this? Like, you begin to recognize, like, at that point, I am simply eating this for a sugar high.
Yep.
You know, or a chemical high, or whatever is in this thing.
What it really is sugar is I'm getting the word right now. Sugar is a excitotoxin, which means it actually shuts your brain off. And so if you notice, when you get about 10 bites into any kind of dessert, it stops tasting good. Like, those first couple bites, they taste amazing, right? But after the 10th bite, you're not tasting it anymore. You're just putting it in your mouth because your brain cannot say to stop. And so I have found, if you stop after 10 bites and you think, do I want to finish this? Your brain will actually be like, no, I'm good. Actually, that was really yummy. I enjoyed those first 10 bites, but I'm totally good. And then also giving yourself that permission to say, this tastes like garbage, because there are desserts out there that taste horrible. And we get 2 bites in and it's like, well, I'm paying for it, so I better eat it.
Yep.
What?
Yep, exactly.
Why? Like, I better kill myself because I'm paying to eat this, you know? And no, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, I've learned that lesson with my kids and going out to eat. You know, there are times when, you know, somebody wants to take us out to eat or whatever, and you go. And, you know, I used to be like, hey, finish your fries, finish your sandwich, eat your food, because that's what we're told to teach our kids, right? I have come to recognize they don't want it. It's crap. It is, they already recognize at such a young age that it is hurting and harming their body, and they ate 2 or 3 fries and they're good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that is their choice. I should not be forcing them to put that in their mouth. I mean, obviously, if it was a sweet potato from my garden in the backyard and they hadn't eaten in 3 days, I'd be a little bit more forceful. But they just had breakfast, and this is not a good meal.
I was going to say, though, too, even if it's healthy, like even if it is the sweet potato, if they're not hungry, like,
yes,
that's all you're having for supper. I'm not going to go make you mac and cheese. You know, I definitely believe in that. Like, I'm not going to make you a special meal just so you'll eat. Yeah. And I remember somebody telling me, well, you've never been a mom and you don't understand. And I'm like, they'll eat when they're hungry. Like,
they will.
If it's healthy food and they're still not hungry, I'm not going to I wouldn't force them to eat in that situation either, because it's
I totally agree.
They will eat when they're hungry.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I just meant you would get, you know, you might nudge them a little, like, hey, eat your potato, take a bite, you know, to get them going as a toddler. But no, I totally agree. I wouldn't force them anymore, but just, we're so ingrained. Oh, I paid $10 for this Happy Meal, or, you know, whatever, eat it. And that's not what we should be doing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, so
cool. So make your home a safe place.
Yes.
All of that to say.
But yeah, definitely worth it. And if you have any questions about how to do that or where to start, you know, we've given some examples of the easiest places to start, but maybe you've conquered all those and you need something that's more complicated, reach out to either one of us and we will definitely help you with that.
Absolutely.
It's going. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on today's podcast.
If you'd like to know more about our programs or watch the podcast in video form, you can visit our websites,
where we also share links and resources concerning the different topics that we have discussed.
Check me out at www.nicolehegsted.com.
And check me out at www.bridgetmay.com. See you next time.